Wait a minute, we're muted.
Do it again. The meeting is called to order. The clerk will call the roll.
Mrs. Chilton?
Here.
Dr. Estrop?
Here.
Mr. O'Neill?
Here.
Mr. Rue?
Here.
Mr. Copeland?
Here. Please rise for the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Our God, we're grateful for the opportunity to gather this evening and to make decisions for the people of Springfield. Help us to do it well, and help us to work together during this period of great difficulty in our nation with the illnesses and with other issues going on. In your name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of our last meeting?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes. Clerk will proceed with first readings by title only.
Jill, could you get close to your mic, please? Thank you.
Authorizing the annexation of and establishment of services to be furnished to the property owners at 4401 South Charleston Pike upon annexation to the City of Springfield, Ohio, and authorizing Jason T. Irick, Assistant Law Director, to prosecute the proceedings necessary to effect the annexation. Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Rumpke of Ohio Incorporated for the city's 2020 collection of fall bag leaves program for an amount not to exceed $57,500. Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Gary Gilbert Jr., doing business as Gilbert's Lawn Service, for abatement and nuisance conditions services as needed by the city for an amount not to exceed $40,000. Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with OMAC Hauling Incorporated for abatement and nuisance conditions services as needed by the city for an amount not to exceed $40,000. Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Whitaker Hauling for abatement and nuisance condition services as needed by the city for an amount not to exceed $40,000. Authorizing and directing the city manager to dispose of a 1997 Navistar 4900 bucket truck being property owned by the city and no longer needed for municipal purposes and should be disposed of pursuant to codified ordinance section 149.03.
Are there any questions or comments from commissioners on first readings?
Yes, Mayor. On 17820 to the law director, what could possibly have to be prosecuted on an annexation that the customer has asked us to do?
O'Neill, prosecute in that sense just means to bring forward. So if, Bryan, if you want to explain what the
Gotcha.
annexation is about, I think that would help too.
Yes, and we do have Ethan Harris, who's with the county, available as well. But essentially what's happening here is the county owns the armory site, the former armory site out near the fairgrounds. That's already a part of the city. They are annexing additional 7 acres, approximately 1.67 acres of the frontage along the fairgrounds, so along 41 there, that is currently not inside the city, but they're annexing as part of a larger project. And so this is actually under Ohio Revised Code in the annexation legislation. When a county government is annexing ground or asking ground to be annexed into the city, there's a special provision in the ORC that allows it to move through this way, this process. And so the commission would hear this tonight. The county will consider it at their next meeting.
I've just never heard the word prosecute used in this manner.
Yeah, and this is the first time I believe that this ORC is actually utilized for this type of annexation.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Prosecute just means like anytime you bring anything forward, so a plaintiff brings a case, they file it, we would use the word prosecute. We just traditionally think of that as someone who is responsible for criminal charges, but it's just more generic than that in this time. But
Thank you.
Anyone else from commission? Questions?
Yes, on the 179-20, the fall back leaves program, what's the date on that?
Yes, Commissioner, I'm actually going to ask Chris Moore and call him up on the screen, and Chris will be able to share that information.
I get to be the guinea pig. Hopefully everyone can hear me. The full bag leaf pickup is scheduled for November 7th and then again for December 5th. And we will be getting information out to residents in the newspaper, on the website, and through Facebook in the coming weeks. And if all goes well, we will have a live video podcast talking more about bag leaf pickup in late October.
Anything else from commissioners?
Thanks, Chris.
Clerk will proceed with second readings.
Amending the zoning map of Springfield, Ohio by rezoning 2.01 acres at 223 Montgomery Avenue, Springfield, Ohio, from RM12 OPDH to RM12 Low Density Multifamily Residence District.
Move to adopt.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes.
Dr. Estra?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Amending the zoning map of Springfield, Ohio by rezoning 0.30 acre at 311 East Castley Street, Springfield, Ohio, from RS8 Medium Density Single Family Residence District to CO1 Commercial Office District.
Move to adopt.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? Clerk will call the roll.
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Abstain?
Dr. Estra?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Confirming and approving a development incentive agreement, single-family residential development, with Martin A. and Maria J. Gozer to provide for sewer services to real property outside the city limits.
Move to adopt.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? Clerk will call the roll.
Dr. Estra?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter to Amendment C to the engineering services agreement with Black and Beach Corporation for the primary effluent pumps replacement evaluation and design project to increase the contract for an amount not to exceed $226,373 for a total amount not to exceed $790,130 and to extend the completion date to February 15, 2021.
So moved.
Second?
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? Clerk will call the roll.
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Dr. Estra?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to submit the 2019 Consolidated Plan CAPER of the City of Springfield, Ohio, to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development.
So moved.
Second?
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Dr. Estra?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the release of Church of God Retirement Housing Limited Partnership from continuing obligations under its mortgage and promissory note given to secure performance of Church of God Retirement Housing Limited Partnership under its home-funded loan agreement pertaining to the property located at 3693 Middle Urbana Road and commonly known as North Point Senior Living Apartments.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? Clerk will call the roll.
Dr. Estra?
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the release of Springfield Housing Partners II Limited from continuing obligations under its mortgage and promissory note given to secure performance of Springfield Housing Partners II Limited under its home-funded loan agreement pertaining to the property located at 108 East Mulberry Street and commonly known as Mulberry Gardens, Ice House Apartments.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? Clerk will call the roll.
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes.
Dr. Estra?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the law director to approve and settle a claim with William S. and Kathy L. Rickard for the expense incurred as a result of damage that occurred on their property located at 2426 Carousel Drive on or about May 18, 2020, and authorizing the Director of Finance to make payment to William S. and Kathy L. Rickard in the amount of $1,393 as full settlement as and for said damages.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Accepting dedication of public improvements for the Derby Glen Village subdivision.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? Clerk will call the roll.
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Confirming purchases and the obtaining of services for the city and providing for payments therefor, and declaring an emergency therein.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Brumball Construction Incorporated for the McCride Avenue project, PID number 104831, for an amount not to exceed $2,460,151, and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission?
I was wondering, Bryan, if you or one of the other staff members could provide us a little more information about what we're getting for almost $2.5 million on this project.
Yes, again, I will call Chris Moore up, and he'll be able to answer that specific question regarding this funding and the project.
Commissioner, so this project consists of a total reconstruction of McCride Avenue from Limestone down to Murray Street, and then a shave and pave of McCride Avenue from Murray Street down to Cedar View Drive. There will be some significant water line work handled in the project. We found the water line under that stretch of road is 105 years old. And there's a pretty significant grade right as you approach the intersection to Limestone. That grade will be lessened to help make that intersection safer. This project is primarily funded with money from ODOT and supplemented by OPWC, and we have some water and sewer money in the project, and then $86,000 of PI funding. The project is scheduled to start if the paperwork can get put in place within the next 30 days, and it's supposed to be complete in September of 2021.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Clerk will call the roll.
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into an LPA Federal Local LET Project Agreement number 35221 between the city and the Ohio Department of Transportation to provide the city with eligible costs of up to a maximum sum of $2,410,000 for the State Route 72 project, PID number 113792, authorizing an expenditure up to $90,000 to be used as matching funds in connection with the agreement to be entered into with the Ohio Department of Transportation, authorizing the city manager, law director, and finance director to do all things they deem necessary to implement said agreement and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Confirming and approving the execution of a grant agreement for the acceptance of an Airport Improvement Program grant with the Federal Aviation Administration in an amount up to $473,245 for crack sealing repair on runway 624 and design of the rehabilitation of runway 1533 at the Springfield Beckley Municipal Airport. authorizing the city manager, law director, and director of finance and airport manager to do all things necessary for the acceptance of the grant and to comply with all relevant local, state, and federal legal requirements and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Accepting the recommendations of the Tax Incentive Review Council for Enterprise Zone Agreements and Community Reinvestment Area Agreements.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? Clerk will call the roll.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Supporting the Vaping Task Force of Clark County.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission?
Yes. We have a resolution regarding that, and it reads, whereas the Center for Disease Control defines vaping as the use of e-cigarette products which can be used to deliver nicotine, cannabis, THC, CBD, flavoring, chemicals, and other substances. And whereas the Clark County Combined Health District reported as of February of 2020, state and local public health officials in Ohio confirmed 102 cases of vaping-related severe pulmonary illness and are investigating an additional reports of illness among patients experiencing serious respiratory symptoms following e-cigarettes and vaping products. Whereas the Clark County Combined Health District received the Tobacco Use Prevention and Cessation Grant provided by the Ohio Department of Health, which has three main goals. Number one is to prevent youth and young people from starting to use tobacco products. Number two, helping adults to stop using tobacco products. And number three, passing policies to limit the availability of tobacco products and limit secondhand smoke exposure. Whereas the Clark County Combined Health District has organized a vaping task force in Clark County, including representatives from the City of Springfield Commission. And this task force has been charged with educating our citizens of Clark County on the serious health dangers associated with these use of vaping products. And I just wanted to say that in October of 2019, our Governor, Mike DeWine, put a new law called Tobacco 21, which means that it is illegal for anyone under the age of 21 to purchase tobacco, vaping, nicotine, any kind of products like that before the age was 18. So our young people's brains are being affected by use of cigarettes, and we here at the City Commission are supporting the Tobacco 21. So vendors are supposed to post signs saying that you have to be 21 to purchase those products. So thank you.
Any questions from commissioners?
Is that the gist, that we are supporting that the purchasers need to be 21 years of age, not that we're not allowing it in the city of Springfield?
This specific item is related to the vaping task force that's
Right.
established. So the health department received a tobacco use cessation grant. As part of the grant requirements, they had to establish this vaping task force. So what we're committing through this resolution is that we will participate and be involved in that vaping task force. So that's all this resolution specifically commits the city to, or
And I think I got this by default because I believe it went to the other commissioners. So I think I got the short straw on this one, but that's okay. It's enjoyable, so.
As long as it's fact-finding, it's fun, yeah.
Okay.
So my dad was a heavy smoker until he had his big heart attack. And my brother was a heavy smoker until he developed serious lung issues. So I strongly believe that the more we can do to try to keep people from developing this habit, and it becomes a habit that's hard to kick, we should. So I will vote for this. Anyone else?
I stopped smoking cigarettes November 7th, 1989. And what scares me is that is so addictive. If I started today with cigarettes again, I think I would have to start all over again.
Wow.
It is incredibly difficult addiction, as most addictions are, to overcome.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Clerk will call the roll.
Mrs. Chilton,
Yes.
Dr. Estra,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Mr. Copeland.
Yes. That concludes our agenda. I want to point out to those who may be watching us on TV that we have significantly changed the arrangements up here to try to provide health protections to all of us on the city commission and our staff. And so the staff, we think we needed a meeting on a regular basis, are down in what we call the informal place. And then the rest are online so we can talk to them if we need to. We would hope that as time goes on, we're able to also invite citizens to join us here. But right now, we thought this was what we needed to do for safety purposes. Did I leave anything out, Bryan?
No, that's perfect.
Okay. Any questions or comments from commissioners? Mr. Estop? Oh,
I
no,
have-
you got a
Yes.
proclamation. Let's
Yeah.
go with that first.
Do that.
That's okay with you,
By all
Dave?
means.
Well, thank you. This is regarding the Transit Driver Appreciation Day, and I believe Logan is someplace close by to comment. It reads, whereas for many people who cannot drive or lack access to personal transportation, including older adults, individuals with disabilities, and people with low incomes, the lack of appropriate public transportation can be a major barrier to accessing employment, health care, education, and other opportunities for community participation. And whereas public transit is an engine of economic growth in communities throughout America, increased public investment in transportation services will provide the potential to create jobs and enhance business prosperity, confirming that public transportation is vital to the quality of life and economic well-being of the citizens of our city. And whereas our Springfield city area transit drivers cover 1,000 miles each day in Springfield, providing safe, reliable transportation to shopping, banking, healthcare, food service, and employment. And whereas Springfield transit drivers deliver their passengers to their destinations regardless of weather and road conditions, the COVID-19 global pandemic may have changed some operations of the Springfield City Area Transit, but the drivers' commitment to providing safe and reliable transportation persists. They continue to move our community forward together. And it reads, now therefore, Warren R. Copeland, the mayor of the city of Springfield, Ohio, and president of the city commission, do hereby proclaim September the 16th, 2020 as Transit Driver Appreciation Day in Springfield, and encourage our citizens to thank the drivers who continue to provide a reliable and meaningful service to the Springfield community, and they continue to be frontline heroes to so many. Thank you.
So does that green L up there represent Logan?
No, that is actually Chief Lee Graff. Logan is up in that corner.
So that picture up there is Logan, huh?
Yes.
Yes.
Logan,
Oh,
what
so-
more you want to tell us?
Well, thank you guys so much for that proclamation. Wonderfully read, Commissioner Schulten. We're really excited about Transit Driver Appreciation Day to take place next Wednesday, September 16th, really just to thank our drivers for their exemplary service, especially during this pandemic. So like Commissioner Schulten said, it'll be next Wednesday. For any of the community members watching who utilize public transit, we highly encourage you to thank your drivers on this day, because they've done quite a bit to continue to keep Springfield moving forward together. So we're very excited, and thanks again.
So I have 10:30 in my calendar. Is that the right time to be there?
That's correct.
Okay.
Thank you, Logan. And it was my honor to read this because during the time that my husband was ill, he loved those drivers with the paratransit that came, and all you had to do was roll the wheelchair up on the bus. So it is my pleasure, and we thank those drivers immensely.
Wonderful. Thanks again.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Logan.
Thanks, Logan.
Okay, I think Mr. Estrop wanted to say something too.
Just ask my usual 3 questions. How are we doing service-wise relative to the COVID virus? Secondly, how are we doing on South End redevelopment, particularly the Kroger store? And then thirdly, how are we doing financially?
Yes, I'll take the first 2 questions and then have Mark do the third. But I want to start off my update on the COVID just to report to you, Commission, and to the community. So as I reported at our last Commission meeting, one of our officers was in critical condition in the hospital here locally. After that, he was actually transported to Ohio State Medical. And I'm so pleased to tell you that he came home on Sunday. And so he is out of the hospital. He's on the mend, making a full recovery, and we're just excited and happy for him, his family, his friends, and our family here at the City of Springfield. We're obviously we want him to get into full health, and then we'll welcome him back to work as well. But just so happy that he's able to be at home, because as we know, the terrible part about this disease is when you go to the hospital, you can't even see your loved ones. And so you're left kind of in isolation outside of your medical care and team. And so we're just so glad that he's back home and he's on the mend. So just want to say that. And,
Bryan,
and
I just want to say, I suspect I speak on behalf of all the commissioners. That's excellent news. And I also was very impressed and pleased to see the support that this person received from his fellow city staff workers. It was heartening to me. They understood what was going on and were there to show their support. I think it's marvelous. So great news for him, and thank you very much to all the city staff members involved in supporting him.
Yeah, and specifically what Commissioner Estrop's referring to is a Light the Night event was held back behind Springfield Regional Medical, and I'd be remiss not to just give special thanks to Officer Justin Massey, who really organized that event. And it was a collection of obviously Springfield PD, but Springfield Fire Rescue, Clark County Sheriff's Office, the Ohio State Patrol, family, friends, other colleagues and coworkers. And so it was just a true sign of support and love for one of our members that was having a difficult and tough time because of COVID-19. So I'm glad that we're back, that he's back home in Springfield and again on the mend and recovering from this virus. We do have a couple other staff members that are in quarantine for various purposes as it relates to COVID-19, but we're pretty low numbers, which is good because that doesn't impact our overall staffing levels, and we're able to continue to provide the services, again, that our citizens have come to know and expect. And so we're able to do that. We're able to keep moving forward. Police, fire, service department, all of our divisions and departments out of City Hall and the courts and stuff are fully operational. Again, maybe a little bit different, just like the mayor pointed out tonight. We're a little bit different here tonight. We're back to being in person for the most part, but we still have technology at our hands. Again, I share the sentiment that hopefully we can open up to the public when it's the right time for commission to welcome in the public. And I'm sure when we do that, we'll have safeguards and protocols in place to protect not only staff and commission, but also the public as well. But again, I just commend the men and women of this organization for their ability to adapt and adjust to the challenges that are presented before them. And we continue to do amazing things even during a difficult and challenging time. So I just want to say that. As far as the South Limestone, so one of the items you read tonight or that you approved tonight was entering into an LPA project agreement for approximately almost $2.5 million. And what's exciting about that is back in 2017, in partnership with the chamber, the county, TCC, and the city, we did an analysis or a study of the limestone corridor from Leffel Lane up to Selma. From that study, that planning study that had quite a bit of, probably more public engagement and public involvement than I've seen on any road project, we were able to capitalize that into a $500,000 grant from the Ohio Department of Transportation, who helped us do the preliminary engineering. And the item that you awarded tonight is the first phase of that construction project, again of just under $2.5 million, but that project will be from Leffel Lane to Lansdowne, so a small segment, but it will start the transformation of that South Limestone corridor, as it is our premier gateway into the community off of I-70. And so we're happy that we can continue the partnership with ODOT on this project. We actually will be applying for Phase 2 funds. We've already submitted the application and will present to ODOT in October for Phase 2, which is Lansdowne to Singer Street, which is just north of the former Kroger site. And so I'm excited to get that project moving, again, because it'll add a lot of value. It'll add both for pedestrian traffic. It'll remove or separate them from the travel lane, because if you walk on Limestone right now, you feel like you're walking in the travel lane. That'll create that buffer space. It'll create an opportunity for enhanced aesthetics through both enhanced street lighting, but also street trees. And then it'll also enhance and change up some of the vehicular movement in that corridor to make it safer for pedestrians and vehicles, all in the same. So I'm excited for that project to kick off. We're also moving along on the redevelopment of the former Kroger property. Again, we've went into an LOI, a letter of intent, with Larry Dillon and his team. We held stakeholder meetings at the end of July, and we're getting ready to hold leadership meetings with those groups represented with Larry Dillon, hopefully as early as next week, and then get the ball rolling on that redevelopment plan for that site. Some activity may be starting here before the end of the month with the former auction house that sat between the Kroger building and John Street. We've done the asbestos inspection on that building, and now are looking forward to moving forward with demolition of that structure to clear the way for the redevelopment opportunities that exist along that corridor. So there's a lot of activity going on right now.
Great.
And we're excited for what the future holds for the South Limestone corridor.
All very good news. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Bryan. I'm pleased to report that I'm getting to sound like a broken record here a little bit, and that our cash balances are holding steady. We have approximately $15 million in unencumbered cash in the general fund at this point in time, and our total cash balances are about $73 million. That's pretty consistent, has been pretty consistent over the last month and a half. 2/3 of the way through the year, we're showing a slight surplus. That's mainly because of reduced spending. We're still running $1.5 million behind where we were at the same point last year in revenue, but we're gaining on it a little bit at a time. Income tax is only down 3%. Over the last month, that's dropped from 4 to 3% behind where we were last year. So all in all, I'm pleased with what we've been able to do. Again, I think it's a testament to the staff here that we've been able to control our spending. Now, the flip side of that concerns me a little bit is that, much of the spending that we were going to do was, taking care of the infrastructure and equipment that we have throughout the city, and we've been very careful or delayed and deferred things that we can do, and we're going to have to step up to the plate at some point. But from a financial standpoint, we're doing as well as can be expected at this point in time.
Congratulations. Job well done in very difficult circumstances, not only by you and your department, Mark, but by all the city staff. And I think it merits your comment that you made before we started the meeting, Mayor Copeland, what you've been hearing from other cities.
Yes, and I think a piece of that is we have employers who are still going at fairly good rates, so we don't have so we still have income tax coming in, whereas in some other places they're suffering from people and they're laying off police and firefighters and stuff like that we've not had to think about at all. So we're in much better shape than a lot of other cities in Ohio.
Yes, I mean, I had originally forecasted, I think as we started down this road, 10 to 15% drop over the previous year, and to only be 3% is testament to the fact that our employers are doing all right in Springfield.
Thank you.
Anything else from commissioners?
Thank the staff for providing some much-needed masks for all of us. Thank you.
Yes, and we're hopeful, we're partnering with the county on the purchase of masks to be able to be distributed to the public. EMA, Clark County Emergency Management Agency, is facilitating that, but that's a partnership between the city and the county and putting in funds to be able to acquire masks. So hopefully I'll have more information for you very soon. Obviously, getting that type of PPE, surgical masks in supply, and especially in that quantity, we're trying to purchase between 40 and 50,000 masks so that those can be distributed out to the public, to those that need it. Obviously, those things are in short supply, and so we're hopeful that we get those here in the next week or so.
We want the public to know that we had masks on when we came here tonight, and we'll put them on before we leave. And we urge people to wear masks and to pay attention to how close you are to other people so that we don't pass those germs around and get more and more people sick.
And when you are relaxed and you are comfortable, you know you should put your mask on.
Anyone else? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Clerk will call the roll.
Mrs. Chilton?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yep.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes. Meeting is adjourned.
All right. Good job.